humanity, and there are those that are not. That's it. You are holding sovereign empowerment for yourself and representing that for humanity, period. The choice should be ours, right? So it's like saying, connecting to the source. So this is a really long story, but again, in the last 30,000 years, this realm has been manipulated, and we could say ruled by negative and anti-life forces that have attempted to create their own programming agenda, because they would like to see us continue, because we have a choice right now. It's kind of like we're ending a song. We've been playing a record. We've been doing the dance. And all of a sudden the song's going to end. And now we have a choice. And what they would like to do is like scratch the groove and play the song over. And we're like saying, I don't think so. So that's what, they just would like us to continue into the same enslavement.
They feed off our
non-used
soul bodies.
Exactly, and us.
And
Here, absolutely.
But with I guess it's so vast, it's hard to
I
understand.
know.
But like at the beginning of this, the controllers were instrumental in the beginning because with this purpose, or they kind of found us and we weren't controlled.
It's true. It's true. It's kind of from the Guardian perspective in the stories and everything that has accumulated over this last 10-year period. In a nutshell, it was that this was a creation as of many. This creation and this planet was actually designed with a particular prototype of a form. And the Guardians call this form the Christ. So this body, no matter what is incarnated into it, is a Christ body, because the planet is a Christ body. So what happens is the planetary body is a Christ body, and so the form that lives on the body is actually an exact replica of the planet or the stellar body that's supporting the life. So we all, at one point, knew we were connected. The planet was our body, even though we were having this experience. So it was a different level of consciousness in that particular evolutionary round. What happened in the last round is what is known as the myth of Atlantis, which apparently wasn't a myth, was actually a realm of time of human consciousness development. And through Atlantis and the cataclysms and abuse of power is where the polarity started, because it became between the scientist, the mind principle, and that of the spiritual consciousness. And that is what chose the event horizon of what we are experiencing now. This is a direct result of what happened in Atlantis and Egypt, and it goes on, because literally our choices is what creates the event probability of what we will experience as a group consciousness. So that's why so much Atlantis and that whole thing. So this has been going on since Atlantis time. But wars, conflicts, and other things at galactic levels over humanity's right to seed and be the consciousness experiment it is, there have been other conflicts. But the major issue with the planet Earth is the Atlantean influence, which is what's known as the Anunnaki or Nephilim consciousness, which you can see is what they have programmed these bodies to be. The Anunnaki have genetically programmed this body to be like them and to be their slave. So that means devoid of emotion, devoid of caring for the group, devoid of, right? So who we are really has been lost, because they have genetically altered us in their mind, right, of who we should be. So when you think of Christ consciousness, unconditional love, oneness, in harmony with each other, this is our natural state. But we're certainly not living that natural state. And that has happened by lots of genetic manipulation and information being withheld from us in a very perpetrated way. Let's put it that way.
Does the word, this is kind of far out, but does the word, this is just a word that's been coming to me lately during meditation, and I can't really find it. I can find different varying things, but in relation to any of this vernacular, does the word kunda mean, like, I know that there's kundalini, but that's not the context in which I'm hearing it, and so I'm just curious as to if that holds any, if you have any information on that. only so much you can get from Google,
Yes. Well, that to me feels like one of the families of consciousness that make up the Quetzalcoatl. This is a whole other story, actually. Yeah. Well, that particular story, what's happening as of what's interesting with this timeline is that on August 14th, I was contacted by the Quetzalcoatl consciousness, which I didn't know what it was, and there are several levels of what's happening now is that I started to see energetic structures that were held in place by blood sacrifices that were made in the name of humans.
Oh my God.
Is this it's resonating? Okay. What's happening right now is that there is a grid on this earth called the Golden Eagle Grid, and these are part of the planetary ley line fields. They have been energized by the war and bloodshed of suffering humans in Iraq and Iran. This is why we have a war over there. This is a major Stargate battle zone over there. Now, Sumerian, many of the histories in the Middle East were connected to Quetzalcoatl is a consciousness we think of in South America, like with the Mayans and all the temples and all the pyramids. But actually, there are several metaphors or allegories of the same energy, and one of them is called the Kunda. And so what it is that there were several major civilizations that were working with pyramidal energies that were tricked and enslaved into giving the gods alms or sacrifices. And what they were doing is they were taking the blood of humans in sacrifice from the beings who innocently thought that's what the gods wanted. And this was like a satanic practice. It was like a dark energy, right? So what would happen is you go and you massacre people thinking you were making the god happy. They would take this and they would reverse it, and they'd create all this energetic architecture of enslavement around blood sacrifice on humans. And this grid, if you will, and this holographic memory is starting to come to be healed. This is why we get these impulses, but we don't know what it means. So this grid is especially potent right now because we know about Iran, Iraq, and what's going on, and we can see our government being puppeted, what's going on. This is why they keep the war going, is, those of us that were at the David Icke thing, if you're familiar with his work, he talks about the pyramidal structures of the corporatocracies that create the enslavement. So I take it to the next level. It's beyond human. This is a non-human force that is orchestrating this in ways that many of these beings don't understand. Maybe they do, some don't. But blood sacrifice and ritual has been used to energetically create structures, some of them held in the secret societies of these pyramids, to energize enslavement through the debt, slavery system, whatever. It happens in the monetary system, it happens in all of the structures, so that the anti-Christ energy, the anti-life energy is propagated. And if you become in the life energy, whatever that structure is repelled from you. This again has a lot to do with like the money issues. I started to see this stuff coming in through Egypt timelines, Sumerian timelines. All of these wars, massive wars have taken place in the Middle East. And so the land of the earth, who is a sentient being in consciousness, can you imagine the karma, the blood, the suffering, the pain, the trauma that's there? So all of that has been soaked into the earth, and that's a living thing, so it's got to be transmuted. Energy is never created nor destroyed, it just transmutes, right? So they were taking this energy and they were reversing it and just amplifying more whatever condition they wanted to place in the fields. So the controllers are excellent at conditioning the events they want to manipulate into happening, but they are, in a sense, karmaless with us because we do it. They're not doing anything. We choose. This is how brilliant the deception is, you see, because literally we do it to ourselves. But they are energetically creating the conditions that impulse us to respond in these ways because we don't understand what we're doing when we're making the choice. So this has been a massive clearing lately. So I think you're feeling that lineage come, which has to do with seraphim, the winged ones that are a part of the creators of the human race. They contributed genetic material to the human race. And by the way, they're a part of the gold order. So if you see gold energy or gold winged beings, this is a part of our memory genetically of our part of that, that's a part of us, is our seraphim lineage. The seraphim became entrapped through these blood sacrifices. Quetzalcoatl became polarized and became fallen just like humans did. And those fallen beings are what are known as demonics, fallen angelics, etc. And there has been a massive healing in that area that's beginning right now, and the shift of all of that time and energy, cellular memory of the blood sacrifice is starting to lift off the planet right now. That's kind of a dramatic story. Oh,
Hello.
hi.
Hey, can you talk about Quetzalcoatl?
I knew you were going to ask about him.
Right. He's close to my heart. What can I say? Can you talk about Quetzalcoatl and his relationship as a seraphim, and also Lucifer's connection to all of this?
Gee, all in
one night?
all in one night. Yeah, exactly. Well, I hit basically, again, that is quite a long story with that, because in actuality, I mean, we know that the Luciferian rebellion, that is kind of the metaphor for what happened at the ending of Atlantis. And Lucifer is actually as well a part of the Anunnaki system. So when we say Luciferian, this is a part of the reptilian, Anunnaki hybrids and beings. You know, it's very genetically diverse, so it's hard to just say. They say Anunnaki, these are very broad terms, just like saying indigo. There's millions of star genetics in here, and as well the Anunnaki have the same thing. So the Luciferian rebellion, in terms of when that happened, was at the time of Atlantis, because actually at certain points in human evolution, it was attempted to integrate and to genetically heal and support the reptilian races. So what basically happened is at some points in human evolution, there was a merger of consciousness that happened. And the ramification of that was a hybridization of the Christ consciousness with the reptilian consciousness. Now, what this was about as well was healing the reptilian consciousness. So this is the fun part, is understanding is that we actually agreed to this. We agreed to this because nothing is separate in the whole of God, source. Everything is connected to God. It's like saying, okay, God has a cancer in his finger. What are we going to do? Are we going to close down that creation, turn it to space dust, or are we going to attempt to rehabilitate and heal all of that split and schism and polarity structure? So the Luciferian consciousness is kind of that metaphor of the polarity between the dark light and the light light. But in essence, if we look at kind of the historical of the evolution of the human being, it was about the Luciferian energy is what took over at the end of the last 30,000 year cycle, because we had damaged the surface of the earth and this planet to such degree that when we reincarnated here and started to walk around in forms, we had none of the cellular memory and the awareness of our genetic potential at that time. So truly we're coming to the head where this is when we say Atlantis is rising. It is rising now because all of the players in that timeline are here right now, and those players are us. And we're all healing what we left unfinished there. And we are here to actually merge and heal and bring that into union. So again, devoid of judgment or devoid of really going into the good and the bad in terms of that real dualized thinking, is to understand that this is the necessity of the wholeness of the unity that is possible, and that the power of the God consciousness has the ability to resurrect the flesh of the dead. How we're going to experience this is hard to imagine. However, when we talk about what we're moving into the ascension, this is what I'm seeing. The God matrix energy has the ability to supersede all false matrices. What that means is the original pattern is now inserted. And that which was false and artificial can no longer stand in the integrity of the purity of one. This is what it means about the collapsing, and why actually the Quetzalcoatl energy and the fallen angelics are now having a massive healing, because they were only responding to the program of which they were controlled, not realizing their source,